Okay, so I only have so many days off in the year, and I always spend them cleaning. I work two jobs, and now all I do is go to work and clean. And the original Stepford Wives video I had was voiceover like normal, and that's not happening because I changed again. So let's do laundry and talk about Stepford Wives. It was a book in the 1970s and got turned into a horror movie in the 1970s, and that's all well and good. It was a good movie. It looked fine enough for 1970s. You know, they had their limitations and all that. The one I'm going to talk about is the 2004 version, which they turned into a comedy for some reason because, you know, a woman's horror story is comedy. So the story goes about Joanna, and Joanna in this version is this highly successful TV producer, and all her shows are about Battle of the Sexes. One of them is literally called Battle of the Sexes, and a former contestant on it gets mad because his wife chose all the other people she slept with. And so he comes in with a gun and tries to shoot Joanna during this whole conference thing. Joanna is thankfully okay, but she's also fired, so that's not great. And she has a little breakdown about it, which is totally understandable because, like, you spend years of your career, you get to this level, you're already ready to move on with all the victims and get them all the best medical care and everything, which is above and beyond. I don't think people today would even do that. And then they're just like letting you go. So she has a whole nervous breakdown about it, and her husband worked at the TV company too, and he decides to quit his job, even though his job wasn't as high as hers and probably didn't pay as well. So, and her son drew this loving picture of a stickman shooting his stickman mom. I don't even know where people get this from because I don't think kids are just that desensitized, but maybe because they're an LA family or whatever. Actually, I'm not really sure if they live in LA or New York City in this version. It's either one of the two because, anyway, her husband's name is Walter, and he suggests that they all move to Stepford, Connecticut. I kept saying Stanford. It's Stepford, the name of the movie. I can't stand that people in movies and TV shows always buy houses without ever looking at them. I know people in real life do that, but normally they don't. They want to actually see where they're going to live, you know? That's annoying. Included in the house is this ugly, creepy CGI dog, and I know it was the early 2000s, but you don't have to throw in CGI animals there and say it's a robot. So Joanna goes out, checks out the town, sees this workout thing that the wives do, even though that doesn't make sense, and we'll talk about that later. And in this workout, they do normal house things like vacuum the rug and clean the windows. It's very weird, and they backhandedly make fun of her clothing and her short hair, I think. Not short hair, her ratty hair. Something about her hair not looking good. There's actually a lot of events in this town which doesn't make any sense to me when I compare it to the original. They go to this 4th of July barbecue where one of the wives has a total breakdown and starts sparking and everything. And Joanna's like, this is weird, Walter. What were they doing? What was all that about? And Walter's very dismissive. He's like, you just like being in charge. Those men had it handled. The two of them have this like big fight, and Joanna thinks like maybe there is something to this whole Stepford Wives thing. And she tries to emulate what they do, which is just baking all day and wearing light pastel clothing, which, I mean, fine, I like it. I don't like the early 2000s version of it, like with the button-ups and everything. Like, fashion was just business casual when it wasn't Y2K. I don't look forward to the day that casual business is fashionable again. No thanks. There's also like this men's association. They meet in this big creepy house, and then they have all these mysterious meetings. But they're not that mysterious because in this version, we get to see what they do all day, which is fight robots and drink and cigars and all that stuff. In the actual book, it was kind of more of a mystery what they do. Like, they just talk and drink, and Walter comes home late. In this version, it is not that at all. They are just guys goofing off in a big clubhouse. Joanna also meets two people in this town that she deems normal. Bobby, a successful writer, and Roger. And I forgot what Roger does, but he's the token gay guy, and he came here because I think couple counseling with his husband. They thought it would be better for their partnership. Anyway, the three of them try to snoop around with the men's club and find out what they're all about. They send in Roger, but then Roger goes in and comes out a completely different person. He literally threw out all his stuff he loves and everything, and Bobby and Joanna think it's super weird. And then they go to another town event where Roger's husband is just running for mayor or something because Stepford's progressive. I don't know. And why are there just so many town events? Oh wait, this is dirty. So late one night, Joanna goes downstairs on her chunky old early 2000s laptop and looks up all the women in town. And they were previously very successful women, and they all looked way different from what they look like now. Even the dog was like some championship Westminster dog show champion. I don't know. He was a champion and he went missing. Like, who's kidnapping dogs and sending them to Stepford? And then she goes to see Bobby and talk to her about what's going on, and Bobby's completely changed in appearance. Her house is no longer a mess. It's all spick and span. She's like some 1950s housewife, and she's just taking all the crap from her sons. Like, oh, I'm sorry they didn't have this Star Wars figure or something. Here's $1,000. He's like, ugh, whatever. And so Joanne's freaked out by this, and Bobby has a complete meltdown in the kitchen. And Joanna runs off scared because, I mean, yeah, if you had to see your friend turned robot have a glitch, you'd probably run too. Joanna goes to the men's association and she confronts them and finds out all their wives were successful and everything, and they turned them into cyborgs and they mind control them because they love them so much. So much so that they want to isolate them in Stepford, and then they want them to stay at home all day and then cook and clean and be ATM machines, because like so many other parts in life, divorce is just not a thing. And forget ever hiring a maid. They want their wives to be their maids. They want their wives to be their servants. It's super creepy. I mean, sure, there are people in real life that want to marry robots because robots can't say, I'm tired, I want to go hang out with my friends tonight. Although, I think there was one good line Joanna had about, like, the women are all so slow because of the guy that works at AOL. Young people watching this movie, like Gen Alpha and maybe younger Gen Z, won't understand the reference because they've never even seen AOL. It's funny how time marches forward and then all this outdated stuff is just no longer funny because the modern audience can't relate to it. Getting old is so much fun. So Joanna pleads with Walter, like, please don't turn me into a robot. I love you. And we see his pathetic face look at her and everything. And then as soon as you know it, we're in the grocery store and she's blonde, long hair, and acting like everyone else. And if this was the original movie, this is where we'd be done, but it's not. So it's another event. We're at some stupid gala now, held by Claire and Mike, congratulating Walter and what's-her-name, Joanna, as the newest members of Stepford. So Walter goes downstairs and he deletes the Stepford Wife programming chip in all the women's brains, and they turn back to normal. And you know what? They're kind of pissed off at their husbands who are just clicking their little remotes and can't control them anymore. And then it's revealed that it's not the head of the men's association in charge of all this Stepford Wives stuff. It's his wife, Claire, because when her husband cheated on her, she kills him and the girl he cheated on her with, and then made a robot husband. So he will treat her like a princess and perfect, and everything is perfect in the past. So instead of turning all the men into Stepford husbands, she gets all the successful women and forces them to be tradwife robots, because she thinks it will make them happy. And then eventually her plan was to turn the husbands into robots and then have a town of robots and then expand to other cities. This plan makes no sense, but I know it's a comedy movie. This whole woman being like the brains behind this town of turning women into robots and being an enemy towards women, it's so stupid. It's like when the gay kid it's like when a bully bullies the gay kid, but then the bully was secretly gay all along. So then 6 months later, we see them on Larry King, Bobby, Joanna, and Roger. And they're all highly successful. And Joanna and Roger, they're doing just fine because he helped them. Even though he resented Joanna for being so much more successful than him and he felt like he lived in her shadow, and he really loved her, and his mercy, it's what saved her and the town. Ugh. And all the men that turned their wives into robots, for some reason, they got sentenced to home arrest, I think. They're doing all their wives' work. And it's the most bullshit punishment I've ever seen in my life. But that's the end of the movie. That was 2004 Stepford Wives. So final change and final thoughts, because I kind of want to go to Starbucks. It's really hot, and maybe I should do something nice for myself instead of just sitting in the house all day cleaning because everyone else decided they want to go to the beach. I miss not living with my family. I need to get my own apartment again. I can't do this. So I was just talking and not recording again. I'm so sorry. This just keeps happening, but I'm gonna push through and get this video done. So anyway, yeah, I watched this film a lot when I was little. It was on this channel FX. It was just one of the movies that constantly played on there. And I remember watching it and being really horrified because I knew so many men who didn't see women as people. They thought so little of them, and they wanted them to be these cleaning, perfect robots all the time. I have an Eastern European mom, and every Eastern European guy is like the guys in this movie, only they weren't smart enough to turn women into robots to force them to marry them. I mean, they're married in the movie, but you know what I mean. They force robots to marry them because real women don't want to marry them because they suck. Let's cut to the chase. I do like this movie. I kind of watched it in a I'm scared of this, but I'm not gonna look away kind of way when I was little. But now in retrospect, I can look at it and I can appreciate it as a goofy, nonsensical comedy. Because if a guy's gonna murder me, he's just gonna murder me. He's not gonna murder me and turn me into a robot. Why would he want to? And I do like how Bobby and Roger were just real New Yorkers. Like, they want to go somewhere and they're like, I'm gonna be here 5 minutes and then I'm gonna go away. If my neighbor was sick, I'd check if he's dying because I want to get his apartment. I guess they were just funnier versions of people I knew in real life, so I kind of liked them. So Roger did have one of the lines I liked when he was in the men's club, because he's an actual guy. He finds Bobby and Joanna while they're sneaking around. He's like, with a flashlight, the men folk are coming. And I thought it was really funny. And while Bobby and Joanna are both mothers, their kids don't really play a big role, other than that if your mother did turn into a robot, they really wouldn't notice or care, and they just go about their day being spoiled children. Bobby's children, at least. Joanna's are off at camp, so we don't see them for most of the film, which is fine by me. I mean, it's a story about Joanna and Walter's relationship. The one thing I don't really get about this film is that they go to all the events, right? They go to the park for 4th of July. They go to the galas. They go to town hall meetings. And the whole thing that in the book is that they want the wives to stay at home. They want them to clean. It's like, hey, do you want to go out? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to polish the floors and make everything look immaculate. And that's just kind of how it goes in the books. But not only do the men go out with their wives and families to all these events, the wives, who are all robots, are going to all this stuff just for them. And it's like, what do you mean just for them? The only person who's not a robot is Claire and any newcomer that comes into the town. So Claire's just having all this stuff for her. The book club where they read some home and garden magazine and find out about pinecone centerpieces. What are they doing? Are they just upgrading their dinnerware party planning programs? I mean, I guess it was just some filmmaking thing where it's like we have to go to stuff for it to be eventful, but why do you need it eventful when the point is to make it uneventful and the women don't go out? Yeah, they go to the grocery store because they have to feed their human children and their human husband, but do they get out-of-towners that often? Because to my understanding, people don't really visit. In the book, they visit, and it would have been really nice if Joanna's mother and, I don't know, dad or whatever family members came and they see how Stepford Wives are. And then, like, in the book, they would tell Joanna, like, I don't know, Joanna, I think it's pretty great how they are here. Maybe just to give Joanna another push about maybe she does need to change for the better. I just think it's such a shame with this movie because, like, you could make a new version of it. You can put a little bit more horror into it and make it a better horror comedy, like, I don't know, Happy Death Day or The Visit. If you don't like The Visit, that's fine. I kind of did, even though the boy was cringy and that one scene with the grandpa and the boy I didn't like. I would have loved it to be a little bit more horror, a little bit less comedy, because this is a very scary thing that is happening if it were real. Putting their brains in robot bodies. Imagine if it was real, it would be horrifying that there's this town where half the population is just robots. I mean, they don't go into specifics, but the way I think it happens is that they take the woman's brain and put it in a robot body, so they're kind of like a cyborg, but not really, mostly robot. Maybe they could have added the scene where Joanna talks to the therapist about the town, and the therapist can agree with her, like, yes, I think it's best that you leave the town. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She has money and she can just go get an apartment and leave. She does try to leave. She does try to get her kids, but that's how she gets trapped at the men's country club. The men's association, my bad. I really would have liked if the ending for the men was different, because I didn't like how they were under house arrest. I get that maybe they just didn't know how to charge them with the crimes they committed, but it would have been better if they were actually in prison. Maybe they were someone's bitch in prison and you can end on a note of them trying to get something clean and perfect for their prison husband. Gee, Caitlin, that's more messed up than the movie. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just spitting here. I just don't really like that scene because I just don't think it was a fair punishment. And maybe it would have been nice just to see small clips of the other wives from around town living their lives back to, I don't know, running airports and being CEOs or doctors in comparison to what their husbands are doing now. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate this movie just because there are things in it that I don't like when thinking about it. I think it's an okay film. I just kind of wish it was more horror in a horror comedy. Anyway, I'm almost done with my cleaning. All I have left is my makeup box and my sock drawer, so whatever. Those are my thoughts about the 2004 Stepford Wives. Was it a good movie? It's like a 6 out of 10. Could it have been better? It could have been way better. Like I said, they can definitely remake it and do it justice and not Don't Worry Darling. However that ended, I don't know. Never watched the end. I tell you to watch the movie on YouTube because it was free with ads, but they took it down and now you have to pay for it. Or maybe you can rent the DVD at your library. Support libraries. I hope your summer is going well. If not, I'm sorry. Mine isn't either. I work 2 jobs and then I clean when I'm not at work. So sorry if I don't upload enough, but please subscribe and support me. Or don't, maybe you hate me. Bye. So I'm like self-learning guitar. I got it like 2 years ago. And I found a bunch of like guitar picks I had in my closet that I couldn't find. They were just under my dresses that were hanging. I don't really care about the end of my videos because no one really watches to the end anyway.